year that King Uzziah died that I saw the Lord. And so we said that there are many distractions that can get in our way to block God. God blocking distractions. Now, today I want to move a little further in this same text and talk about restored destiny part 4. And today we will subtitle this, The Blessing in Perception. The Blessing in Perception. Are y'all here this morning? Push on your neighbor and say, neighbor, it's time for your destiny to be restored, and there's a blessing in perception. All right, so let's open up this morning here and just define the word perceive. Perceive. Perceive means to become aware of. Perceive means to become aware of or to identify by means of the senses. To perceive means to recognize. It means to discern and to envision. Keep that in your mind. Perceive, perceive. Now, so this morning we approach the text again here, and we find that the distraction has been removed. Now there is the revelation of God. Uzziah has died, and Isaiah testifies out of his own mouth that when the distraction has been removed, that now I see the Lord. Now understand here, Isaiah got a clear understanding of the magnitude of God in all of his glory, in all of his brightness and his enormity and the fullness of who he is in great power. How many of you know that we serve a great and awesome God? Isaiah testifies that he saw the Lord, and we suggested to you last week that the word Lord there means master, and it means king. It means the one in control. And I read over in Psalm 24 and verse number 7. It says, lift up your heads, O ye gates, and be lifted up, you everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is this King of glory? The Lord, strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. Lift up your heads, O you gates, lift you up, you everlasting doors, and the King of glory shall come in. Who is the King of glory? The Lord of hosts. He is the King of glory. Now, so Isaiah saw the king's rule and the king's dominion. And anytime you begin to come before God, it is as if you were coming before the king. You don't just approach the King of kings any kind of way. Is that right? He says, I saw the Lord sitting on a throne, and he was high and he was lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. It reminds me of, if you will, turn over to Revelation chapter number 4. What Isaiah got a revelation of was the activity that's going on in the throne room in heaven. And Revelation chapter 4 verse 1 says, after these things I looked, and behold, a door standing open in heaven. And the first voice which I heard was like a trumpet speaking with me, saying, come up here, and I will show you the things which must take place after this. And it says, immediately I was in the spirit, and behold, a throne set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. And he who sat there was like a jasper and a sardius stone, and in appearance, and there was a rainbow around the throne, in appearance like an emerald. He said, around the throne were 24 thrones, and on the thrones I saw 24 elders sitting, clothed in white robes, and they had crowns of gold on their heads. So what Isaiah says that he saw in this vision, in this revelation of God, was really the same activity that's going on in heaven. Now, whenever you see him sitting on a throne, it expresses power and authority. Am I right this morning? Some people may not believe it, but God is still in control. I know there's some crazy stuff going on, but God is still in control. Will you testify to your neighbor and say, neighbor, God is still in control? I know it's crazy out here, and it seems like, my God, things have become so chaotic, but I want you to know this morning that God is still in control. He knows exactly what's going on. And so he's a great king. He's a great potentate. He's the master of the universe. And he's the one that is seated on the throne, and there is no rival to him. Now, the Bible says that Isaiah says that his train filled the temple, the train of his robe. You think about a train when there's a bride and when she's coming down the aisle, and sometimes the train is very long, and so he says that the robe, the train on the king's robe was so large that it filled the whole temple. You began to imagine how big God is, and it speaks of the vastness of God, and really words are inadequate to totally describe God, for the train itself filled the temple. God's glory is incomprehensible. God is just too big for our words. Now, when the word says in Psalm 48:1, it says, great is the Lord and greatly to be praised in the city of our God. Millard Erickson says that when you think about the greatness of God, it includes his spirituality. For when you think about God as being spirit, he does not have the limitations of a physical body, but he's great. Isn't that right? When you think about his greatness, you think that he is great, for he is alive. Our God's not dead. Somebody say, God's not dead. He's still alive. How do you know? I feel him in my hands. I feel him in my feet. I feel him all over me. He is life. And then when you think about the greatness of God, you think about infinity. For God cannot be limited. Space, we think about space when we think about God. For all other objects have a location. They are somewhere, which limits them from being somewhere else. But not our God. Somebody say, not our God. Our God is everywhere at all times, my God. And when you think about how great he is, you think about how great he is in time. For time does not apply to God. No, he was before time. And you can't say or ask the question, well, how old is God? Because the answer is that he is no older now than he was a year ago. For infinity plus one is no more than infinity. He is from everlasting to everlasting. He is God. Do I have anybody talking? He's great in knowledge, for he knows what's happening in all places at the same time. Matthew 10:29 says that not a sparrow falls to the ground without God's knowing. And so when Isaiah got a revelation of God, he got a revelation of the great and mighty King. Now let me tell you this, that the moment a person gets a proper revelation of God, he will then get a proper revelation of himself. You can't get a proper revelation of who you are until you get a proper revelation of God. And Isaiah says that I got a good revelation of God. The glory of God is bright, and the glory of God will show your true self. Now, I know some people have seen religion. And some people have seen religious activity. Some people have seen pomp and circumstance. Some people have seen forms and traditions of men, but have not seen God. Because when you see God and you understand who God is, there will be an immediate response. There'll be a falling down. There will be an humbling of yourself. And there will be a penitent demeanor and a self-abasement. There is always the recognition of self. I remember over in the book of Mark, chapter number 5, Jesus stepped out of the boat, and the Bible says in verse number 6, that man that had been demon possessed and cutting himself in the tombs, and the Bible says when he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and worshiped him. See, you can't really fall and worship him until you get proper revelation of him. And then I look over at Luke. Turn to Luke chapter number 5. Luke chapter number 5, they have an encounter with Jesus after they have been fishing all night and they caught nothing. And Jesus told them to launch out again into the deep and let down their nets for a catch. And after they pulled up all of the fish, verse 8 says, when Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord. See, when you get a revelation of God, you will get a revelation of self. Turn over to Acts chapter number 9. Saul, who was going to persecute the church, he thought he was doing right. He thought he was honoring God by killing the Christians. And the Bible says that he was on the road to Damascus to get another load of Christians to persecute. And the Bible says there in verse number 3, it says, and he journeyed, he came near Damascus, and suddenly a light shone around him from heaven. Then he fell to the ground and heard a voice saying to him, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And he said, who are you, Lord? Then the Lord said, I am Jesus whom you're persecuting. It is hard for you to kick against the goad. Understand then that Isaiah got a revelation of Isaiah. Did you note that? I said Isaiah got a revelation of Isaiah. When he got a revelation of God, he got a revelation of Isaiah. I don't read anywhere where he started thinking about old sister so-and-so. I don't see anywhere in Isaiah 6 where he starts to get a revelation of God, and then he starts to see old brother so-and-so. He didn't see God and start saying elder this and minister that and deacon this and sister and brother. No, he got a revelation of God and then got a revelation of himself. How many times when a word is released, when a word is preached, that we can think about everybody else that the word ought to fit, you start thinking about, I wish so-and-so had been here. I wish this one could have heard that. But Isaiah didn't look for anybody else. Isaiah got a revelation of God, and then Isaiah got a revelation of self. My God.